What if the future of customer marketing isn't being written in conference rooms or dashboards, but in the minds of the people bold enough to break the mold? What if advocacy didn't just influence the pipeline, but shaped power structures? And what if the next era of women in tech wasn't defined by the roles they earned, but by the rooms they built? Today, on the Loyalty Talks podcast, we are diving into those questions and a few we haven't dared to ask out loud. Because joining me is someone who isn't just participating in the evolution of customer marketing, she's architecting it. Gianna?
Yes.
Co-founder of Champion, a platform that is redefining what advocacy, loyalty, and customer-led growth can look like when built with strategic brilliance and heart. Gianna is one of those rare leaders who can speak in both languages, the operational rigor of a builder and the emotional intelligence of a champion. She's transforming not just technology, but the leadership narrative for women in SaaS. I am so thrilled to have you here.
You're going to make me cry at the onset of this. I think that I will listen to this podcast intro every time I need a glow up. So thank you. That was really meaningful words.
Welcome. I think just hearing you, I have got a little teary, but yeah, we can't do it right at the start of the podcast.
No. We'll wait till 10 minutes in.
I'm a crier, by the way.
Me too.
I cry
Me
at
too.
everything that makes me happy, sad.
Likewise.
Anything.
Likewise.
Yeah. But okay, let's start with the beginning. My first question is what
Yes.
drew you into customer marketing, and when did you first sense you weren't just part of the industry, but actually someone who's going to shape it?
Thank you for that question. I think it started when I was in really tech services and then moved over to the product side. And you used a word about architecture. And to me, that's really what I've discovered customer marketing to be. It's go-to-market architecture, really understanding the impact that it can make on the growth strategy of the organization. And when I was in services, it's all about network and relationship driven sales. That is how you succeed. It is about really catering to the customer. And typically, if you even look at the structure of go-to-market teams, the salesperson will remain on as the account manager as well, or stay very, very close to it. That by nature is saying this relationship is inherently extremely important to us. When I moved over to the product side, that's not the case. That customer journey, there are really fragmented teams across each stage of it, which means, yes, okay, that person is important, but now you're important to this person, this team. Now you're important to this team. And it was astounding to me that we didn't have more of a pulse on each individual customer, understanding that, sure, there's massive scale, right? We're talking millions of customers to, tens of thousands of customers, depending on the size, but there were still principles within services that I felt could lend itself really well and really bring these two strategies together. And so that's really how my eyes were opened to this concept. I didn't even realize it was called customer marketing at the time.
I think with customer marketing, and there's truth in that because customer marketing touches everything, even if it's
Everything.
not labeled as customer marketing.
Correct.
You're there.
Yes.
And be it any service, I think the heart of go-to-market excellence or brilliance is what we bring out together. So yeah, that's beautiful.
Agreed. Thank you.
I still remember that I was designing these advocacy programs and things like that, but I never knew what the term advocacy as such was. And this I'm talking about 10 years ago. So we all stumbled upon customer marketing. And now we made
now it's a thing. But yeah, agreed. And it just seems like common principle of, you are building a business, focus in on the people that you've brought in, your customers. And then how do you help propel them to get deep impact so that they help you grow your business? And I think at its simplest form, that's what customer marketing means to me.
Yeah. And okay, so we're talking about designing customer marketing and the roles we have in it. Let's talk about ceilings, or let's talk about breaking ceilings. When you think about the phrase breaking the glass ceiling, right? What has that meant for you personally? And was there a moment when you realized you made a crack worth celebrating?
It's really hard to know kind of your personal ceiling versus the greater, right, glass ceiling that we talk about that's very genderized. And there are many times I felt like I've impacted it both personal and professionally. And then there are times where I feel like I've gone step backwards, right? Or again, it's more of the external environment that you can't control. I wore this silk scarf today because they're symbolic for me. I started working in tech services. I had made the leap from retail into tech services, and I had, quickly proven myself as an outbound sales rep, and I got promoted. But I knew the impact that I had, and I really, really wanted to get to a VP level. And I realized that I needed to be perceived as one. And it was a very bro-y culture, like true bro, like from, the 2000s, although, our bosses were from sales guys from the 90s. And so it was very much that kind of male bullpen environment. And I was determined to become vice president. And I knew that I really needed to embody it fully. And I'll talk about that, I'm sure, in many of the questions that you ask later today. But part of, I was broke at the time because I had changed my career and I didn't have a lot. And I knew that I needed to up level the image, and that partially, I will say, is for me, because when I show up, and this is something, Aparna, we talked about, right? Like, we love to show up, right? And fully show up. And it gives me strength to know that I'm representing my full personality and my power and my, all of it. And so I went to a secondhand store and I found silk scarves. This is Valentino. And I found one for $25. And I bought a lot of silk scarves and I wore, my basics from Gap or H&M, whatever it was at the time. And, just like simple black silhouettes. And I would throw my scarf on and some accessory. And that, to me, whenever I need to harness that power, I wear these because it is hard. You asked the question about breaking the glass ceiling. It is not easy. When I moved over to Eric Hall, I was part of the C-suite. I was GM of North America. I was the only female outside of HR that was in the C-suite. And it was very interesting because I lead with the belief to empower a team to rise. And many of my counterparts are more of that hammer. And, I think the old SaaS term, growth at all costs, right? Meaning throw money at it. I actually think growth at all costs really also meant kind of treating people transactionally. Who would purpose you to get to that next series round? And I'm adamantly against that. How do we help people rise and really harness talent? And it was very interesting that I had wildly successful results, and my team and globally recognized me for this and really made me feel so much appreciation for the value that I was driving. They allowed me to realize that they saw the value that I was driving. And yet, when I walked into the room with my colleagues, I felt like I was put in a corner. The exception to that is Mr. Jeff Rigour, who is also my co-founder, who is just like the most awesome ally in the world. But that was challenging. And a lot of that is we don't speak the same way. And I think that there were things that I could have done differently and I could have navigated differently. I was also going through a divorce at the time, didn't have that capacity. And so I think that there are, while it is hard, there are things that we can do to make it easier. But, those moments that you asked about celebrating, there are some personal ones. And I really was very proud to think about this. My impact when I got to Aircall, and I don't mean to dog them, it's a fantastic organization. I am probably most proud of my work that I've done there. It was an amazing culture and an amazing environment, and I was strongly empowered to do very, very many things, though we have to talk about the whole scope of it. Right? I had, when I came on board, I had 5 directors and 2 managers on my team that reported to me, and all of them were male. And then within 2 months, I right-sized to have 4 directors, half were women, and had 9 managers, and only 2 of them were men. And so, look, we look for people who can do the job and do the job really well.
Yeah.
But I think that I was also able to break through a lot of biases and really see the talent that we had in house. And as a result of it, there was far more equality. And I know we're talking about gender, but also people of color on my management tier. It was very important to me to have a team that represented the true community that we were servicing as well. So that was a really big milestone for me as a leader. And then the second, I would say, when I think back, talking about breaking the ceiling, I talk a lot about my leadership style, about empowering and empowering other women and empowering really everyone, though here we're really talking about gender. I took that male culture that I mentioned within tech services. And, one of the most frustrating parts was that there was my colleague was a man. And then there were two other women on the team as well who were leadership, though it was always spoken that I drove strategy. I drove all of the real innovation. I was true number two to the CEO alongside my male counterpart. Yet I was in the raise cycle of the two women a little bit below. And that was really frustrating. Why were we getting raises at the same time? That does not make sense to me. Value me for what impact I am making on the business, and it cannot always be parity with two others. And that was challenging. But within this culture, I look back at some of the women that rose through this organization, which was, again, primarily that bro-y culture to begin with.
Yeah.
And now we have, I look back and they started as cold calling outbound SDRs. Caitlin Foster is now the head of community at Adobe. Gigi Neuenfeld is nearing to be the CCO of Launch Darkly, and Sarah Branfman is an SVP at Databricks. And there are so many more examples of this.
Wonderful.
And it's just incredible to see how much they've risen in their careers. And that to me is helping to break the glass ceiling, is paving the way for women to go even further than you've gone, and celebrating them along the way.
Wonderful. I think you've just painted the exact duality of so many women and how they feel while celebrating those wins, while being painfully aware of the ceiling still hovering over there, overhead. And I really, really love the fact that you've shared those tiny details about building a team, the org chart, how the balance reflects. That's when you feel that the cracks turn into sunlight.
Thank you.
Yeah. Honestly, hearing your name, set of women who are doing really well and everything of that sort. But while you were mentioning the scarf thing, I was finding it funny because, oh my God, the first thing I did with my salary was I had gone on the real.
Love the real.
I know I'm very fond of certain fashion accessories and stuff. I'm like a heel person, okay? I love my blazers and stuff, but I love my heels and my handbags. And I know the kind of responsibilities and everything on me. I can't go berserk. But then at the same time, the realreal.com was my rescue site until date.
Awesome. It still is. Yeah. I love it. I love milestone gifts. And that's something that I share a lot with the women on my team. Celebrate yourself. When you reach a milestone, buy a gift for yourself that is going to last, that you can look at and remind yourself of how far you've come and how hard it is to get there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. And now we've spoken about women and women in customer marketing who are like invisible glue, influencing decisions without having the actual decision-making power at times. But then at the same time, I just feel how can they translate that quiet impact into visibility? And I know we'll dwell a lot more on it, but the growth at the leadership table, how do you go ahead and have that?
Yeah, you have to get unquiet. You do. But I don't think unquiet means loud necessarily. And so I think it's really understanding how you could push your limits a little bit, but do it in a way that's extremely authentic. And I hate that word because I believe it's overused. But at the end of the day, what I believe authentic means is you've got to be comfortable in your own skin. And at the same time, we need to grow and push ourselves. And so I would figure out what getting unquiet means, but really it's about owning your story and knowing the impact that you make on the business and ensuring your colleagues know that impact as well. That is power, because then you're creating internal champions who have that respect, right?
Yeah.
Who have that respect and will advocate for you as well. And then the second thing I would say is ask for an influential person within the organization to mentor you outside of your manager, but inside of that direct culture, because they've got nuanced context that perhaps someone outside can't provide. And they can also serve as a guide in sharing with you how you can get unquiet, different areas of opportunity, and really kind of coach you along the way.
I like this. Get unquiet.
Get
Because
unquiet.
when I started, and I started with American Express, then all of a sudden I realized that no, I want to be a writer, and I joined Franchise India and what have you, and then a PR agency. And in that agency, I was told that you need to be humble and your work will speak for itself. And to be very honest, while I feel that yes, my work will speak for itself, but at the same time, I always felt that, okay, work whispers and, the loudest person in the room gets the credit is also something that, you need to understand the right balance between.
I think that you just said it right. It's understanding the balance. And Aparna, when I think about you, you have such a open personality that is joyous and celebratory. And you do that for others. And if you don't do that for yourself, I could see that would feel unnatural and like you were limiting yourself. And perhaps others might have that unquiet in a different way. But that's really, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because that's really what it means to like find out what that unquiet means for you in that right sense. And agreed with you. The person in the room who said, I did X, Y, and Z, even if they didn't, are the ones that,
Correct.
right, get the credit for it. And so, this is why I think if you have that whisper campaign, don't just wait for meetings to share the impact that you've made. Really make sure that you're building first team alignment with the VP of sales, with the VP of customer success, or the C-suite, like whatever layer is appropriate. Maybe go aspirational a little bit as well. But this way, people are regularly feeling like you are working alongside them for that same common goal of where everyone is going within the organization.
I am a firm believer of the fact that, okay, I have a folder where I put in all my achievements in the year. I put screenshots. If someone said something good about me, I screenshot that. And
I do too. It's great to go back to every now and again to look at.
Look at it. Yes, I enjoy. But then at the same time, I would be a little pompous about it. But yeah, I thrive on recognition. But I don't want to wait to the end of the year that, when when I fill in my review, performance review and stuff like that, then I'll add those things. No, I want to go ahead and let others know that, okay, this is something.
I love that. That's right. That's right.
Okay. And I think enough of self-praise and loathe.
Never enough.
I'm going to switch to you starting Champion. Now, I want to know, how is it that you got inspired to start and create Champion, and what were the gaps that you were trying to fill in within the industry? I know there are plenty, but...
Yeah. I think a lot of it goes back to what I was sharing about services versus product, right? And just that notion and thought of growing through your customer base via like really strong relationships. When I think about building a business, I was raised in a restaurant. My dad was a small business owner, immigrant to the US from Sicily. He had a cute little, restaurant that then turned into 5 restaurants. When I think about how he did it and his businesses, sometimes they were very successful and sometimes they were not. And when they were successful, it was because of the energy he created in the room and the environment that he welcomed regular customers. And this in a small mom and pop store is so apparent, right? I love to think about, in like the movies when they like rewind to like the 90s or 60s and you're in like small town wherever and there's this cute store and you walk in and the shopkeeper is like, oh, here's your flour and your eggs and your toilet paper, because that's what you come into, every Wednesday. And
Absolutely.
they know that you ordered something and they're like, oh, we know you were supposed to get X, Y, and Z, but it's not here yet. Instead, use this until it arrives next week.
Yeah.
They've got the context. That experience is what brings people back. That experience is what would make me say, hey, you should go shop at this store. They're making my life easier and they know me. And so how do we bring that concept into SaaS or into tech? I think it's very possible, but this is what customer marketing can do. And so it's utilizing technology to have this contextualized story to be able to provide a very personal and personalized experience. When I was in tech services, we were amazing at hunting. We were outbounders. I had a team, I ran the outbound team. We had a team of about, 100 at one point of just like outbound. We were amazing hunters, and we grew the business to about 50 million that way. And all of a sudden we realized to get to the next hurdle, we were actually hemorrhaging customers. We would, close with them once, and then it was almost like we had to break back into them to have a second deal with them, which was silly. And so we started a program called Going Wide, but it was all about, we need to focus in on the customers just as much as we're focused on hunting. It seems simple. It seems like common sense. But if you think about SaaS today, VPs, CEOs are all still screaming about new ARR, new ARR, new ARR. And yet they're also, right, boards are driving for efficient growth. You can't solely focus on new ARR. It's really expensive. To achieve efficient growth, you must focus in on the customer. And so this to me was what we really wanted to solve in building Champion. And for us, we're drinking our own tea. Our growth strategy, our marketing strategy is customer marketing, period.
Wonderful.
And this is what will get to efficient growth.
Wonderful. I think, technology definitely helps scale that humanity that we are looking in customer marketing and not replace it, actually. So
That's right.
Yeah, and which leads into, I would say, customer marketing today is, and I know you heavily rely on this, that data-led and human-centered.
Yeah.
But tell me something, how do you see if the tension is shaping to the next wave of innovation? There is a lot of stress on.
There's a lot of stress, and I think unfair pressure on figure out AI. It's just really interesting. I think we haven't had this wave of pressure since telling people to use a computer.
Yeah.
Or use the internet. But I think it's going to right size itself a little bit. And so what I would say is remove the pressure and fear. But I think that data-led is very smart if it is partnered in a way of human centricity. And that's what it can power. And we actually had this awesome event last night. We co-sponsored with Chili Piper. Love what they're doing. Awesome partner. They brought a lot of marketing ops folks to the table. We brought a bunch of customer marketing folks to the table. And it was such an open dialogue. And what was so interesting was that, the MOPS folks are all saying, we're stressed because we need to drive more revenue. We need to find revenue for growth. And we've got customer marketing saying, hey, we've got all of this dormant revenue. We can be the solution, but we need your help. We need your help. And so I think the two, right, the team that's really focused in on data centricity and architecture and the human touch of customer marketing, when we put these two together, this is that next wave of innovation. And this is where Champion is going. And this is what really, really excites me.
Wonderful. It gives me chills. I think everyone's raving about AI and all that kind of thing. And even every day, how are you going to increase your productivity and what have you? I think it's powerful, definitely. If it's used in the right way, it can be quite an asset. But then at the same time, within customer marketing, I feel it just removes the kind of warmth that customer relationships require. I think
Aparna, sorry to cut you off. I think it's no different than when automation was the big word and the big name, right? And then it's the pendulum, right? The pendulum swung too far. People realized, no, we need personalization back. And the same thing is going to happen here. I think the people who are going to win are the ones that use AI to drive efficiency, not to remove the relationship, but to power the relationship. Yeah, so it's not going to replace jobs. It's going to empower folks to have more time.
Yeah, I think it's got more intention than we assume. We're looking at the right thing that, it's not going to change. I would say no, it would not take away our jobs, but it would definitely transform or future-proof our careers if we are more aligned to it.
That's right. It's when cloud technology came about, this was something new. I think just the change that I see here is that people don't know AI and it's being tasked on the individual employee to figure it out, as opposed to allowing software companies to develop on it and then just using it. And that if I were a huge CEO, I think, yes, we all want to experiment with AI, but don't do it in a way that's going to cause fear and distract employees from actually doing their jobs. And I believe a lot of that is happening today.
Yeah. I totally agree with that part. And I'm reading on my next question and I'm wondering that, okay, should I really ask that? Okay. Because I kept wondering, why am I pushing it more on the woman angle?
What is this question?
I was like, how do you think AI and automation, and these emerging technologies should women in customer marketing start mastering?
Yeah.
Do,
I
do
see
you
a lot
think
of
it should be women or?
Well, I will say this. I see a lot of women mastering it, which is really incredible. You've got Sienna and you've got Lauren who are, constantly sharing, here are some Emily Coleman, right? Who are really sharing a lot of like the innovative
Yeah.
prompts that they're doing and such. And so, yes, I think we all need a comfort level, period, of course. But I also think that what we're talking about often is using ChatGPT. What we're talking about is using a, Gong or a Fathom, which is going to give you AI-driven notes, which create efficiencies. So I think that we're all using it today and don't realize how much we're using it, right? And I think that idea of mastery is find out where it is right for you, experiment, and just get comfortable with it, but don't get distracted by it. Because at the end of the day, you need to do your job and you need to do your job really, really well.
Exactly. That's quite the thing, because I always feel it's good to have, you should know it. And it's with any job, actually, not just AI. You can delegate when you know what stuff you're doing.
Yes.
If you don't know how much time an Excel takes or a VLOOKUP takes, how can you tell them, oh, start a VLOOKUP, and the other person would say it would take me 2 hours? I'd be like, are you crazy? Till the time I'm not aware that it's going to take me like 3 seconds to pull up a VLOOKUP and,
Yeah.
sort my data, I can't tell the other person that, what, this is how long it takes. I think, AI is the same way. Right now, I'm telling you, I am living and breathing on ChatGPT. I have made agents on Mistral. I am using Notion for my to-dos. I am building mind maps on Obsidian. So I am quite involved with AI.
Yes.
But then at the same time, I know how to build a storyboard with a sketch pen and a whiteboard.
Yeah.
I am relying on a mind map because it's interesting and it puts a lot of your thoughts together from different sources and whatever have you. But then at the same time, I know that, let's say if it crashes,
You know how to
it
do it.
won't crumble my world.
Yeah. Well, I love what you're talking about, Aparna, because it's still, you're saying, I want to continue to practice my ability to critically think and create. And how am I going to use technology to help foster that or help cater to that? At the same time, I'm not going to lose this skill. And you're finding that balance of when it's appropriate versus not appropriate. And I think this is beautiful, right? This is what we should all thrive for, really, is what you're sharing. I am a smart human being that will decide when it's appropriate to use it or not.
Exactly. And until the time I can justify the fact that I know my shit. Whatever AI tool you're using or whatever.
Yeah.
I just want to be aware of the fact that tomorrow and oh my God, I'm going to sound like such a sexist, but if tomorrow a man turns around and tells me that, oh, you don't know technology well, I can give 200% that I will be able to, counter that.
I love that. I love that.
Okay. Now, let's talk about if you were to sketch the customer marketing org chart for the future. What kind of roles, now that we're talking about the skills and the art and the technology, what kind of new roles or functions you think would appear?
Okay. So aside from Champion being at the center of that strategy, what I would say is I think rather than talking about the org chart, because honestly, there are so many different makeups and sizes, I think it would be irresponsible to kind of say you need this, that, and the other. But when I think about customer marketing, I want to go back to the point that I made earlier around the alignment with operations. I love the intersection between customer marketing and CS. Now that's one side of the story, right? And so the other side of the story is all of go-to-market architecture. And so what I would do and what I would encourage, and how I'm going to answer this question instead, is I believe there needs to be much, much, much stronger alignment with the CRO and with the RevOps team. And that's where I would focus. Because when we think about customer marketing, it really spans across the entire customer journey, which is go-to-market growth. And so there's no greater influence potential when it's done right to drive pipeline, to have stronger close metrics and reduce time to close, stronger conversion rates across the different stages, expansion and retention measures, and then product influence to build for the core ICP. Now that's customer marketing. That is what RevOps cares about. So how is there not more alignment between customer marketing and the CRO? This is what we need to bridge in the coming year.
I love that thought, actually. I've never thought from that point of view, to be very honest, because I've just been very focused on that one possible thing and one structured goal. But you're right. And considering we're all program people, I think
that's right. You could really speak that same language. Speaking of languages, rather than just sharing theory of this is what should be done, one of the ways I would recommend getting there is to master financial literacy and really know your business. And, I speak with very, very many customer marketers, and I ask the question, what is your organization? What's the growth strategy? And many a times it's, I'm not sure. Or, what is the VP of sales working on in terms of improving their numbers? I don't know. And so we need to change that I don't know into, I had a great alignment conversation. Here's what they're working on. And here's how we're customer marketing going to support reducing time to close, right?
I think, sorry.
No, please, please.
It's a lot to do with a person's curiosity and intent as well.
I like this. Tell me more.
So for you to be invested in what the overall company's goal is, or their numbers, or where they are placed, or what direction they're going at, you can't just invest your self in that particular job role and not care about what's happening around you.
Yes. And in order to be really taken seriously, your peers and your colleagues need to feel like you're playing the same game. And so if you don't know what their goals are and their challenges are, you're playing on a different field. So they're not going to invite you into the table. And so I agree with you in that. And thank you for expanding on it, because you're right. It's really about bridging these relationships so that you're playing the same game.
Correct. And I feel we can be those growth architects if we have the right intent and the curiosity to dwell deeper, because no one is going to, and especially not your leaders, are going to keep coming up and walking up to you and saying, hey, I'm working on this. No, that's not their role.
Exactly. And then you have to connect the dots for them of like, oh, you want to improve win rate? Let me share with you how I'll help you do that. This is what I can do. So we actually, and I'm happy to share it to your audience and listeners, Emily Sid, who's our head of customer success, and myself, we developed a workshop where we provide a framework to have these conversations. So we're happy to share that with anyone that would like it.
Okay. Now we've spoken about growth architects. So if you have to architect something out,
yikes.
If you could invent one feature that doesn't exist yet, would change the game for customer marketing, what do you think it could be?
That's huge. I'm not giving away my secret sauce. That's for Champion to roll out and you guys to find out. But no, I kid, because I don't know that's $1 million question or $50 million question that I hope to find really soon. But what I'll answer that instead is that I think that there are 3 key elements to changing the game of impact. And one, I think it's data centralization. And so our most successful customers have access to data, whether that's Salesforce, whether it's, your CRM, your CSP platform, Gainsight, or whatever it might be, data warehousing, et cetera. You have to have access to data to have a true seat at the table. The second is what I talked about, that go-to-market alignment, right? Buy-in from sales leadership, CS leadership, from product to really understand the impact that you're making. And then third, I would say is again that partnerships with marketing operations or RevOps, because they're the ones who are really going to help propel your workflows and orchestration to drive the impact and visibility that you're looking for. So rather than features which come and go, and we'll find that secret sauce and continue to roll it out at Champion. But really, I think it's those three things. Technology is only as good as the people using it. And so it's really about how do you create that internal win. And so it's data centralization, having access to data, go-to-market alignment among the right leaders where they respect and understand your impact. And then with RevOps, making sure and ensuring that they're supporting you being able to roll out the impact that you can have.
I love that. So that feature, I think, yes, tools evolve, features fade. You're right. Integrations, oh my God, let me not get started with integration, but yes, they get replaced. But what really truly transforms this entire arena of ours is, the data centralized truth and a good respected voice.
That's right. That's right. And I when I think about my career, Aparna, it's really stepping out of the day-to-day, and this is the singular thing that I impacted, and more so, here's how I understand the business, and here's how I'm influencing the business. And I think the key shift that I see customer marketers starting to make is really bridging that wider net. And that is what will give bigger budgets and a continued influence and growth for individuals.
Wonderful. Tell me something. Now, you're a leader, right? You're into leadership roles and you're now heading your company. Do you define it by influence, impact, or integrity when you talk about leadership? And I'm going to add more to it. And how has that definition evolved for you as you became a founder?
Great question. The TLDR is, I think it's all three. How I've evolved, I would say, is not as a founder, but before. When I was in tech services, when I started my career in tech leadership, I was a hammer. It was that bro culture. And I was like, this is, I was told no one literally the words, no one needs to like you. And I was helping people rise and they were succeeding. And yet I had this pit in my stomach of, but this feels wrong. This doesn't feel right. Why do it? Why can't I do this in a different way? And then I started to really work on myself as a leader to understand what I believe and where I thrive the most is actually an environment of empowerment and safety. And what I mean by safety is removing fear, removing the anxiety. And it's funny because whenever I say that to women, they're like, yes. And when I say that to men, they're like, I don't have fear. And I'm like, when you get angry, you're angry because of fear.
Correct.
Right? And they just don't understand that underlying emotion is actually fear. So as a leader, I try to foster a culture of deep listening, transparent conversations, and one that really facilitates giving people the space to experiment and to grow and to impact. And you really see that in our values. So you asked as a founder, so now here, our values reflect this. One team, one goal, right? And that I talked a lot about that, creating that first team alignment. We all need to be playing the same game. We're all in the same field here. And so we have to have an assist. I'm not good at sports analogies, but you know what I mean. You talked, you actually shared these words also. One of our values is get curious, not critical. And so as you get that pinprick, someone said something, understand your reaction, take a deep breath and get curious before you react. And so it's really fostering an environment where you're allowing people to understand the difference between responding versus reacting. And that's really going to allow people to be heard and share their perspective and voice, which in turn makes for a much more open culture. Another value is go on offense. And so it's especially interesting right now as the market is heating up with competition. We hear them dogging us all day long, and it's people are coming to us with such misconceived notions of who we are, and we're not playing that game. We're just sharing what we do, how we can empower folks, how we do it differently. And we're very acute on focusing in on what our customers need and that customer-led growth as opposed to what our competition is doing. And the same is true internally as well. And so we call that go on offense. And then we've got two more. One is no ego. Leave your ego at the door.
Lovely.
Right? Yeah. And then be better than yesterday. The whole concept is to try, like, that's what brews innovation, is learning, iterating, and trying to be a little bit better for what better means today and what better means tomorrow, because that changes also.
I adore that. That's
Thanks.
wonderful. You know, this entire episode, I've realized that I've not come up with any analogy of mine because I'm very fond of adding things like that. So while you were talking, I was like, oh my God, yes, I know what I'm going to say.
Yeah, what is it? Tell me.
To me, I think when you were describing your role, and I don't know whether you would want to call yourself leadership or something of that sort, but yes, when I look at you, and from the first time I met you, you had those leadership qualities, and you're one of those leaders, and that's my part of the analogy now. Leaders aren't the ones who are leading the way, but actually they are the ones who are holding that flashlight, and they're the ones handing it to others, saying, okay, you go ahead, explore that first. I'll follow your lead. And just seeing you interact, talk, the way, I think before my speaking session started and you messaged me that, hey, I'm catching my flight, I'm going to miss it. That's the kind of leader I would want to look up to,
Thank you.
But yeah, and the part that you said about ego, oh my God, I love that. Because I feel there are times that when you're so keen on others to grow, you are going to elevate yourself also. It's not about your success alone. Because if I'm doing well as a team player, right, I'm more invested in achieving those goals that are your goals, and your goals are my goals.
That's right. That's that one team, one goal. And, thank you for your words and for sharing. And I know you shared a little bit more of your story, and I've got the context of probably why this is hitting so close. And Aparna, leaders should empower others to be their best selves. And thank you for sharing those kind words to me. And I wish nothing more for you than to have that also.
I think we will not get emotional now. Yeah. And I'm so glad right now this is not the video I'm not uploading. It's just an audio podcast. Though I have some very, very strong people in my life who have been pushing me to put things on YouTube, and I'm like, oh, I'm not ready.
I think you should. I absolutely think you should. Start here when you're ready.
Yes. 2026 is going to
deal. I'll come back for that. Excellent.
But tell me something, what's that one lesson? Now, we've spoken about what positives and, encouraging thing. What's that one lesson about power you had to unlearn moving from the marketer role to a CEO co-founder role?
Yeah, I think it's what we were just talking about. It's not about taking credit. It's about inspiring folks to take your ideas further than you do. And that's that flashlight that you were talking about. At the same time, though, you don't want to give your ideas away for free, right? And there's actually great danger in not having some of that recognition. And I think that that's such a delicate balance that I've learned going from kind of contributor to leader, is that while you want your team to feel empowered, you also can't kind of falsely bloat up their sense of self either. Right? And you can't diminish your own light. And so it's really thinking about, how can I be known for influence rather than tactical projects?
Okay, say that line again.
How could I be known for influence rather than tactical projects?
That's so true. Yeah, I really like that. And I think, yes.
And it's hard, Aparna, because like you, I love attention. I do. I love attention. I do. And I love creating. Like, creation for me is what drives my energy. And really I love thinking of what gift can we give? Or what's a creative name we can come up with? But then I have to realize as a leader, let that go and let someone take it a gazillion times further, because one team, one goal. It's about the impact we're trying to drive. And by releasing it, I'm
Yeah.
allowing the impact to compound. And at the end of
You're
the day,
right.
that's what we really want.
Yeah, it's that shift from look what I built
Yeah.
to look what we
We.
grew
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me something, and this is a big one also. I have a lot of big questions. I think we're
Yeah, you sure do.
nearing nearing the end of it, but yeah. How do you measure success today? Especially metrics that don't show up on a particular dashboard of yours.
Great question. And as a leader and all of this 996 baloney and, working yourself to death to succeed and all of that jazz, I think at the end of the day, I'm really proud of the impact that I've made, of the career that I've grown. But what is most important to me at this stage in my life is and this sounds, I'm not God and I'm not trying to be God, but it's really like in this small world that I influence, because it's only a small world that I influence, but I want to make it a better place. Through my actions, through my words, through my relationships, through care. And at the same time, though, it doesn't mean that I'm selfless. I'm like wildly motivated by money and I want to retire in 4 years. So there's also that. But for me, it's about making sure that the people who have meaning in my life feel the value that they bring to me by how I make them feel. That's by spending time with them. That's by the words I share with them. That's by the actions I share with them, and trying to give back to my community to help level the playing field. And to me, that's what success means. If I die tomorrow, I want to be proud of the footprint that I've left and know that I made people's lives just a little bit better.
Lovely. Yeah. I think I'm going to turn 40 next year. And I always keep harping on the thing that, when I'm turning 40, I'm going to be wiser or something. No, I think I'm pretty wise right now.
Own it.
From what you're saying, there was one time, and I was talking to my brother about it. I was like, the older I get, it's not that I don't enjoy applause. I love it. I love recognition. I thrive on it. I don't chase it. I've stopped chasing it. I think what I did in my 20s, I was chasing it desperately. Now I think it comes to me quite naturally. And
I love that, Aparna. We probably can, next time we see each other, have some drinks and talk about the baggage and trauma that made us have to get through that lesson. Because, girl, I've got the same. But likewise, right? What approval were we looking for? And aren't we so thankful today that it's not about approval? It's instead, how are people talking about us when we're in and when we're not in the room, because of who we are and the impact we make, not because of I need their approval.
So true. Okay. Now tell me something. And there are a lot of women listening to this podcast. One, from the LinkedIn post that you saw, we have a lot of women cheering.
I love you. Crystal, I love you. That made my day. Fangirling right here myself.
Tell me something. What unique challenges and strength do you see in women building careers in customer marketing today? And how can companies genuinely empower that growth?
Yeah, this is a really strong question. See, as women, we fall into these patterns and we perpetuate the problems sometimes and we don't realize it. And I see this. I see women taking men's word as fact as opposed to the same curiosity that they drive women to prove. And one I would say is check yourself out the door. Don't believe everything a man says as fact. Don't let them get away with that.
Yes. Yeah.
Ask how. Ask why. Have them show their proof the way we need to show our proof. And I'm not saying be rude, but let's help ourselves level that playing field. And so that's one. I think the second is to really take that seat at the table. And I shared this earlier. In order to do that, have more financial literacy and very specifically understand the strategy and the big bets the company is making to get there, and align yourself with that first team alignment across the go-to-market engine so that you can drive impact together. They need to see customer marketing as a part of that go-to-market engine. And that I believe is a really critical component. And so what companies can do, I think that was part of your question.
Yes.
And I think a lot of them have been doing great things. One is rubrics to interview for promotions, right? That helps weigh skill and achievement fairly. Make sure that you're at an organization that does do that. I think an organization can help give space to women around financial literacy, training, coaching, touring. And again, I think that if it doesn't, find that person within who can mentor you on that front. And I think that will greatly help and empower growth.
I think, it's heartbreaking at times, but we've gone ahead and adopted that kind of thing, that those expectations about ourselves, that this is something that, a man would say, right? And you believe it and you take it, right? But you've got a point.
I do it too, right? And this is not, I have to check myself at the door to make sure I'm doing the same. I'm a person who asks for permission, and that's a lesson that I constantly have to unbreak myself of, right? And I'm just do it. Like, why am I asking for permission? Why would someone else have the right way of doing it? There is no right way of doing it. There's a way of doing it, committing to it, and iterating along the way.
So I think there's this very, very close leader of mine, and she's a wonderful lady. I have been thinking of, sharing this with her. She comes up with the most amazing questions in a meeting, but she'll always start with, "Hey, I'm sorry, this might just sound like a dumb question." And I'm like, no, you
Don't say
were
that.
not going to start like that. Because there are times, and 99% of the time, she's so bang on point, but she would always apologize before coming up with that question.
Yeah, and it downplays her impact. It downplays her power. Totally. We've got, as we're growing in Champion, some of the women on my team are, I'm sorry. Stop apologizing. So we've got an internal, no more apologies. Take your space. Take your space. No more apologies.
Yeah. I think with me, I start smiling when I have to ask a question, because my mind is going like that, you know what? No one's going to do this. I am going to ask you this question. There are times I have seen leaders, when they know I'm smiling, they don't look at me.
Fear of death. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Okay. I think we're at the second last question now.
Okay.
And this is like a pattern question. I added another one because it's you, but this is usually my last question. But what's the best career advice you've ever received, and what's the worst?
I love this question. Best career advice, and this is something that I've woven throughout this entire podcast, Aparna, but it was given to me by Eric Berridge, who is the CEO of Blue Wolf. And I was running revenue operations at this time it was called sales operations, and it was inside sales. And I walk into his office. He was the CEO. His counterpart, it was a co-CEO, and I worked for the other CEO. But Eric looked at me and goes, "How many deals are you closing today?" And I was like, "I don't know. That's not my job." And he was like, he was like, "You have the ability to take all of this over. You need to know your numbers. It is always your job to know it." And so again, really having an acute understanding of the business, of the trends, and how you could help make impact. And so that was the best advice that I ever got, which it may not be relevant to know how many deals you're closing, but what he's really saying is get involved and know it, know the business. The worst piece of advice that I've ever gotten, I was actually, and this is so sad, I was a part of it, I won't name it. It was an executive women's networking group that was extremely expensive, and I was a part of it. And they've got a core group, and my core group, it's supposed to be like-minded women, and you've got a facilitator, and they help you kind of get unstuck from challenges, etc. And I'd been working at a company as part of the C-suite, and we had a new board member who wanted to get very involved, and he knew a certain part of the business, and he wanted to have a weekly strategy call. Okay. And so my question, a board member. And so my question to this group was, I know I am someone who thrives with autonomy. And if I feel too micromanaged, I'm going to I'm not going to have, my creativity is not going to feel free. I create, I'm a creator. This is how I build. It's going to stagnate my creativity. It's like, how do I, and does anyone have, this was my ask, does anyone have a framework or a structure for a weekly meeting that doesn't get too tactical? How do I keep it strategic on a weekly basis? Because you can't be strategic on a weekly basis. You
Yeah.
get too in the weeds, you get too tactical. And my fear was this man was going to take over and just orchestrate the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the advice that I got from multiple women were, oh, you need to get him to like you. Excuse me? I'm sorry.
God,
I'm sorry, what?
sorry.
What year are we in? I need to get him to like me? No. I need to
It's
get him to respect me, and I need to create
exactly.
boundaries so that I hold my ground in my role to say I accept your influence
Wow.
and your knowledge, but I'm running the show here. And so I quit that organization, the women's networking organization, because I felt like that was so backwards and detrimental
Exactly.
to the cause. So no.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I burst out laughing when you said the worst thing.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cringe.
It is cringe. So cringe. Get him to like you? No. No.
I don't know, but there are times that so many of us, we reduce ourselves to shrink ourselves to this entire thing that okay, men would feel, expand their roles into leadership, that you diminish your light or something, or that's
Yeah.
a please. Sorry.
Nope. Nope. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. 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 Nope.
But yeah, I love your best advice that you received. Yes, knowing your numbers is something that I think it's like a superpower.
Yeah.
The minute you start talking, I would say the first 30 seconds to 60 seconds, if you know your numbers, you see how the look changes in that
That's
room.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
It shows that you are working, and this is something that Cassie Young from Primary Ventures always mentioned, like work on the business, not in the business. And when you're trying to have a seat at the table at the executive level, you need to show that you're working on the business. And so that's understanding how you are impacting the business. Lead with impact, not with tactics. Yeah.
My last and final question. What does championing women mean to you personally beyond your brand?
Wow. All right, I'm going to make you laugh for a moment. I'm going to go back to my high school senior year quote, my yearbook quote. And I found it I'm going to age myself now, but I found it in a YM magazine. So anonymous, thank you. But this is held true since then. And it's, you don't have to blow out anybody else's candle to make yours shine brighter. And this, to me, is what leadership is about. It's what women empowerment is about. It's what parenthood is about. It's what good relationships and partnership is about.
Exactly.
And I'd probably take it a step further to then say, you also want to help them keep shining their light even when the winds are blowing. Even when, right, it starts to diminish, how could you help them ignite it a little bit better?
Oh, lovely. I'm going to go ahead and clip this and use it on Instagram because this is Instagram worthy.
Sweet. Awesome.
I love it.
Awesome.
So not blowing out someone else's candles, but shielding it so both can shine. Yeah.
Yes.
Brighter. Yeah.
Brighter.
I love it.
That's right. That's right.
Gianna, I think I'm partly grateful for all the truth and the spark and the fire that you brought into this conversation today. I'm glad that you've reminded everyone of what leadership is about and where it's arriving, like, how you're arriving somewhere, and it's about lifting others and not climbing over them. But yeah, to everyone listening today, I just feel take this with you from this episode that your career is not a ladder, it is a torch. And I'm going to get very philosophical about it. But
I love this. Let's go there.
I think carry it with conviction. Pass it on with the kind of generosity that doesn't really dim someone else's light. Whatever little that I've noted from here, what I usually do is while editing podcasts, I make my notes. And I know there's so much that I would want to jot down on how to just become a better person in my career, which will also have a better influence on my relationship, on personal front, professional front, whatever be the thing. It just makes you a better person. So
Thank you.
until next time.
Thank
I
you,
think.
Aparna. These questions were amazing. This has by far been the most thoughtful podcast I've been a part of, and the questions were unafraid, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much. I wrote down 28 questions
They were
and I was like,
amazing.
I had to cut down and think, okay, I ask everyone 10 questions. Okay. And I kept cutting. And then I was like, no, let me merge this question with that.
They were amazing. Honestly, this was the most interesting questions I've ever had. It really was just so easy. And I value your persona and who you are so much, Aparna. I'm just very thankful and grateful. And I think that there are many moments that I'm going to clip here as part of my little folder of saved items that help me ignite my fire. So thank you for being a part of that as well. Thank you.
If you found today's tea piping hot, don't forget to stir the pot. Share it, rate it, and bring a friend to the table. Until next time, keep turning loyalty into leverage with me, Aparna, and the Loyalty Talks podcast.